The most powerful people in history did not always control armies. They did not always sit on thrones. They did not always write laws. Some controlled something quieter, something deeper: desire. They learned that if you can shape what people want, you may never need to force them at all. You do not need chains when the mind reaches willingly. You do not need a command when the person believes the desire is their own. A product becomes a dream. A cigarette becomes freedom. A car becomes identity. A breakfast becomes tradition. A politician becomes hope. A brand becomes a mirror, showing people not what they need, but who they wish to become. And behind this invisible machine stood a man many people have never heard of: Edward Bernays, a pioneer of public relations, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, a man who understood something dangerous before most of the modern world did. People do not only buy things, they buy meanings. They buy belonging. They buy escape. They buy status. They buy a version of themselves that feels more complete than the one they already are. This is not only a story about advertising. It is not only a story about one man. It is a story about the hidden code of modern life. The moment power stopped only controlling behavior and began engineering desire. Human beings like to believe they are rational. We tell ourselves, I chose this, I wanted this, I decided this. This is my taste, my opinion, my dream, my life. But the human mind is not a clean machine. It is full of hidden needs. The need to belong, the need to be admired, the need to feel safe, the need to escape shame, the need to become someone, the need to be seen. Most people do not buy only what they need. They buy what makes life feel less incomplete. A suit does not only cover the body, it says, I am serious. A phone does not only make calls, it says, I am connected. A luxury watch does not only tell time, it says, I have arrived. The object is visible, but the desire beneath it is often hidden. This is the human problem Bernays understood. People are not moved only by facts. They are moved by symbols, images, stories, status, fear, longing, a private hunger that may never be spoken out loud. Before the modern age, many rulers tried to control people by force. But the 20th century opened a different door. Mass media was growing. Newspapers reached millions. Radio entered homes. Cities became louder. Crowds became larger. Products multiplied. Choices multiplied. And with every new choice came a new question. How do you make millions of people want the same thing without making them feel controlled? That question became one of the quiet engines of the modern world. And Edward Bernays was one of the people who learned how to answer it. Bernays did not invent human desire. No one did. Desire is older than advertising, older than politics, older than cities. But Bernays helped show the modern world how desire could be organized. He saw that public opinion was not random. It could be shaped, guided, framed, given symbols, given emotional direction. This was the hidden system. Do not only sell the product, sell the meaning around the product. Do not only present a fact, build the emotional frame before the fact arrives. Do not only ask people to choose, arrange the world so one choice feels natural, modern, safe, free, or powerful. This is where influence becomes invisible, not because it disappears, but because it moves upstream, before the purchase, before the vote, before the opinion, before the desire. Power begins at the frame. A thing can be sold as luxury or necessity. A policy can be sold as safety or freedom. A company can be sold as progress or patriotism. A habit can be sold as identity. A weakness can be sold as a lifestyle. The public may think it is choosing freely, and sometimes it is. But the emotional lighting has already been set. The language has already been chosen. The symbol has already been attached. That is the hidden code. The strongest influence does not always tell you what to think. It tells you what to think about. And, even more deeply, it tells you how to feel before you think. Freud had opened a disturbing idea that human beings are not fully transparent to themselves. We think we know why we want what we want, but beneath reason, there may be fear, memory, shame, status, longing, a hunger we do not know how to name. Bernays did not bring psychoanalysis into a clinic. He brought the idea of the hidden self into the marketplace. If people want status, sell them status. If people want freedom, attach freedom to a product. If people want beauty, show them the self they fear they are not. If people want safety, turn uncertainty into a reason to buy. If people want belonging, make the product feel like entry into a tribe. The object itself was no longer enough. Soap could not only clean, it had to promise respectability. A car could not only move, it had to promise power. Clothes could not only cover the body, they had to announce identity. Food could not only feed, it had to become culture. This was the psychological turn. The product became secondary. The emotion became the product. And once that happened, modern desire had a new architecture. People were no longer only asked, "Do you need this?" They were asked something deeper. Who will you become if you have it? That question is still everywhere. In advertisements, in social media, in politics, in lifestyle culture, in the silent comparison that follows us through the screen. Maybe the most powerful advertisement is not the one that makes you buy. It is the one that teaches you to feel incomplete until you do. It would be easy to turn Bernays into a villain, but that would be too simple and too comfortable. Because the harder truth is this: Bernays did not create the weakness inside human beings. He studied it. He organized it. He gave it language. He gave it method. He helped professionalize the art of touching what was already there. The machine worked because people were not empty. They were full. Full of hopes, full of fears, full of dreams, full of loneliness, full of insecurity, full of desire to become more than ordinary. Public relations did not invent these needs, but it learned how to aim them. And this is where the moral question begins. Is persuasion wrong? Not always. A teacher persuades. A parent persuades. A public health campaign persuades. A movement for justice persuades. A documentary persuades. Even silence can persuade. The danger is not persuasion itself. The danger begins when persuasion hides its purpose, when it speaks as truth but works as strategy, when it borrows the language of freedom to create dependency, when it turns human weakness into a business model. That is why Bernays matters. He forces us to ask a question the modern world avoids. If your desires can be engineered, how free are you when you follow them? This is not a question about Bernays alone. It is a question about us, about what we buy, what we admire, what we chase, what we fear, and what we call our own. The techniques of desire did not stay in stores. They entered politics. They entered war. They entered public life. They entered the way societies see themselves and the way they see their enemies. Because politics also depends on emotion, fear, hope, anger, belonging, the need for protection, the need for an enemy, the need to believe that history is moving with you, not against you. In the age of mass media, public opinion became a battlefield. A population had to believe, support, sacrifice, fear the right danger, trust the right authority, see the world through the right frame. This is where the story becomes darker. Because the same tools that can sell a product can sell a war. The same tools that can create trust can create panic. The same tools that can attach freedom to a product can attach fear to a people. Modern control does not always silence speech. Sometimes it floods the world with so many messages that people cannot tell which desire is theirs and which was planted. A slogan can become memory. An image can become truth. A repeated phrase can become instinct. A public fear can be turned into consent. A private insecurity can be turned into profit. This is why Bernays feels modern. Not because he invented manipulation. Manipulation is ancient. But because he helped give it a modern costume. Research, expertise, media strategy, psychology, public relations, a clean office language for the ancient art of moving the crowd. And maybe that is the darkest part. The modern machine does not always need to lie to you. Sometimes it only needs to choose the angle, choose the symbol, choose the fear, choose the desire, then repeat it until it feels like common sense. You do not need to force people if you can make them want the path that was prepared for them. But understanding influence does not mean rejecting the world. It does not mean every advertisement is evil. It does not mean every desire is fake. It does not mean every brand, campaign, message, or public story is a trap. That would be too easy. The real turning point is not paranoia. It is awareness. To understand Bernays is not to believe that everyone is controlled. It is to realize that everyone is influenceable, and that includes us. The question is not, can I escape all influence? You cannot. No one can. You were shaped by language, family, culture, school, media, memory, fear, love, history. The better question is, can I notice the influence before it becomes identity? Can I pause before desire becomes obedience? Can I ask why this image moved me? Why this product feels like status? Why this lifestyle feels like success? Why ordinary life suddenly feels like failure? Why I want what I want? Look around now. The world is full of Bernays' ghost. Not because one man created modern life alone. That would be false. But because the logic he understood is everywhere. You do not buy shoes. You buy movement. You do not buy a phone. You buy connection. You do not buy skincare. You buy control over time. You do not buy luxury. You buy distance from ordinary life. Even the self has become a brand. Your taste, your politics, your body, your productivity, your lifestyle, your morning routine, your pain, your healing, your rebellion. All of it can be packaged. All of it can be sold back to you as identity. But the moment you see the frame, you are no longer fully inside it. Edward Bernays lived long enough to see the world become more like the one he imagined. A world of images, messages, campaigns, experts, brands, public moods, manufactured attention, engineered trust. But the deepest lesson of his story is not that people are foolish. People are not foolish. People are human. And being human means living with invisible hunger. For meaning, for recognition, for safety, for beauty, for power, for love, for a self that feels complete. Bernays understood that hunger, and he showed the modern world how to feed it. with symbols. That is the hidden code. Modern power does not only ask, what can we make people do? It asks, what can we make people want? Because once desire is shaped, behavior follows. Once identity is shaped, markets follow. Once fear is shaped, politics follows. Once attention is shaped, reality itself begins to bend. So the next time you want something, pause for a moment, not to shame yourself, not to reject the world, but to ask a quieter question. Is this desire mine? Or was it handed to me so gently that I mistook it for myself? That question may be one of the last forms of freedom, because the person who understands desire is not free from influence. No one is. But they are harder to control. And maybe that is why Edward Bernays still matters. Not because he taught the world to buy, but because he revealed something deeper. Before you can control a society, you must first learn what it dreams of. And if you can shape the dream, you may never need to give an order. You only need to wait for people to call it their own.